Hi, I'm Patton Oswalt, and you can watch me on Don't Be Alone with Jake Hogan.
Jake Hogan.
Jake
Hogan.
J period
No,
Kogan?
just Hogan.
Jake
Hogan.
and then Kogan.
Yeah.
Jake Hogan.
Don't be alone with Jake Hogan.
Hi there. Welcome back to Don't Be Alone with Jake Hogan. This is a very special episode because this is the first time we've ever done a two-parter. Patton Oswalt was so interesting and so fun to talk to. We didn't know where to stop it. So we just kept it going. And now this is the part 2 of the conversation with Patton Oswalt. I hope you enjoyed as much as I enjoyed having it. Please let other people know about the show. Don't Be Alone with Jake Hogan. Please subscribe to Don't Be Alone with Jake Hogan. Please share the show, and please write me at DBAWJK@gmail.com with all your questions, your comments, your suggestions, and especially listener questions that I can ask the guests each week. I will mention your name and I will praise your being just for existing. And without further ado, the great, a little further ado, if you didn't know who he was, Patton is one of the great comedians of our time. He's hysterical. He's from a generation of comedians that came up in the last 25 years that are just spectacular and smart and fun and talk about real things and aren't just stupid assholes. Can I say that? They're not just stupid. Anyway, he's really smart, wonderful, and I'm proud to call him a friend or an acquaintance. We'll have to ask him whether I'm a friend or acquaintance, but I consider him a friend. Maybe he considers me an acquaintance. Either way, I'm happy to have him here. The second part of this conversation will be fantastic. You're going to love it, and I hope you stick with it the whole time. I'll see you on the other side of this. Here comes Patton Oswalt.
Don't be alone with Jake Hogan.
So you were going to talk about how how show business is collapsing under your feet.
Well,
not for you.
No. I mean, it's for everybody. Everyone I know is like this. Is everyone's freaking out? But I do read a lot about showbiz. I read showbiz biographies or showbiz histories.
Right.
And this has always been a thing that's been collapsing on one level or another. Now, sometimes a form will completely collapse, like vaudeville completely collapse, but then the people that were able to move over into silent films, and then silent films collapse, and then people could move into talkies that had voices. So there's always a mutation going on, but the thing that feels new about this for me right now is you can just openly and kind of aggressively have only ambition, and that is what attracts a fan base. In other words, they will tune in and watch somebody who is determined to just conquer without giving anything back in terms of talent or content or feeling.
Desperate for the fame but without
not even desperate for the fame. Like their starting base is, I deserve this, and I will get what is owed me. I'm a wronged person. The fact that I'm not famous and rich means that something's wrong in the universe. Join my crusade. Be part of this thing, and then they somehow are able to phrase it as, we will all win. Like when I get my movie, it means we've won, even though the people that they're just fans. Right.
Which reminds me, you should write into DBAWJK@gmail.com to subscribe to Don't Be Alone with Jake Hogan. Each subscriber gets a special hat and a cup.
Yeah. And you know what? And you get to win.
You win.
If Jay wins,
I win.
If Jay, listen, a grave injustice is happening in the podcast world right now. As you know, Jake Hogan is there's an iron boot on his neck, and we need your collective strength to help lift it off so that we can all win.
The man will lose if I win.
It's amazing how so many right now, there does seem to be an audience now, and it's a sizable audience because it's being catered to by Netflix, by of we will go and watch something even if it's not good, just if we know it makes someone else sad that this is doing well.
Like
Do you know
what?
what I mean?
Give me an example of that.
It's just this, especially a lot of these kind of MAGA adjacent alt-right kind of films
Yeah.
or TV or comedy,
Oh, yeah.
there's a lot
Right.
of the fan base is not so much that, like if you
Like
ask
that
them,
Dennis Quaid, Ronald Reagan movie or whatever.
I mean, if you ask them like, wow, that arena show you just went to, what were some of your favorite jokes? And they're like, the libs, the libs were like crying somewhere. You're like, yeah, but what was the thing the person said that really made you laugh?
Right.
Just, he was up there and the place was sold out and like you could feel the liberal tears.
Right.
But what did the person do that like went through you and has landed with you and you've taken from it? We won, man. Like we struck a blow.
Yeah. And so my dad was a comedy writer. And
I worked with your dad.
Yeah, that's
At
right.
Mad
At Mad
TV,
TV.
The fabulous Arnie Kogan.
You were very kind.
Arnie Kogan was just delightful. I remember that on the there's a Mad Magazine thing where the staff went on a trip.
Yeah.
And they were doing all these little things. And so what happened? Like, this guy did this, and then at one point they just said, and it was all the other writers like, this guy had a nervous breakdown, and they said Arnie Kogan was just delightful, and he just had that weird Zen way of sailing through the world.
My dad is generally speaking delightful, but so
Yeah.
I didn't have to worry about, but I did see the ups and downs of show business and see that, okay, well, this is, sometimes there's a huge gap between jobs, and sometimes my dad's working on the coolest show on TV, and then sometimes it turns out that cool show 2 years later is the least cool show on the face. He worked on Donnie Marie. He was executive producer of Donnie Marie. When I was
my God.
in 7th grade, that was fantastic.
Are you kidding?
When I was in high school,
Yeah.
it was like, ugh, Donnie Marie. So
Right. But isn't it weird how that's looped back around to really cool now? Because now you can watch the old shows and go, there's Chris Christopherson high out of his mind playing Han Solo, and like, this is awesome.
Well, my dad's first job in Hollywood was the Dean Martin show, and there's no one cooler than Dean Martin.
Oh,
Even
my
to this day, you see
God.
clips of Dean Martin on his variety show going, that's amazing.
Was it true that he basically showed up 20 minutes before airtime and just...
Yes.
Where's the cue card? I got it. Let's go.
Yes. And you'll notice on the show, he's standing in a mark, and then gold diggers take his arms and drag him to the next mark because he doesn't know where the marks are.
No, yeah.
He has no idea where he's going or what's doing.
Oh, there was one I saw where it was he was like closing the show out, and I think he had to like go down a fireman's pole.
Mm-hmm.
So he was like there. He kind of turned this way and he went, oh, over there, all right, and then went there where and like people like that way, Dean.
Right.
All right, okay,
Yeah,
boom.
that's exactly what he did.
Yeah.
And it was delightful. I was on that show when I was 5 years old, and my sister was on it.
Oh, my God.
And it was my first taste of show business, and I thought,
Were you in a sketch?
I was in a musical routine where lots of Christmas episodes, all these kids were surrounded by, and he was there, and Dennis Weaver was his guest singing with him.
Oh, my
And it was
God.
fantastic, and I thought, this is so much fun. I got to do something like this for the rest of my life. This is what's cool.
It was the same thing. My first open mic, I was just sitting in the back, and I'm watching all the comedians hang out. Blaine Capatch was the MC.
Right.
This guy Mark Voice, this guy Daryl Knight, Dave Chappelle was there, and it was all these people, and just them hanging out and just riffing. I'm just like, that's what I want to do.
Yeah.
And someone would like do a joke, and then someone would go, well, just add this, and they would like, you'd see them build it, and you're like, oh, that's what I want to do.
Yeah.
That's my favorite. There's that Jerry Seinfeld documentary, Comedian. I'm so grateful that he got on film. He's trying to do this joke about think tanks, and he films himself at a couple of clubs, and the joke is not working. He's got a new joke, and he's working on it, and it's not landing, and he can't find it. But you can see that he knows something's there, and he's just like, the audience is like, yeah, and he's like, and then he cuts. He's at a table with George Wallace and Colin Quinn, and they're just, he goes, I think a joke, and it's like, how do you get fired from a think tank? Like, it doesn't,
Right.
But there's something there, and then you see George Wallace goes, Don, sometimes you just don't think. And then you see you see him like, there it is, like, I got the whole joke. And like, we don't get our jokes out of books, we form them out of midair, and a lot of times it's because we're hanging out with our friends to go, add this, add this, add this.
Yeah. I mean, and if you have the wherewithal to remember and to have that, yes, that's it, and the feeling.
And just the structure on my second to last special, there was a joke I did in the middle about going to Denny's, and my opener, Orlando Leyba, we had been doing all these shows together. I was touring, and then one night he was like, that's your closing bit. Like that, nothing else really follows it. I know you think that it's just but you could turn it into a closing bit. And then I started rewriting it and realizing like he saw the closer before I did.
Right. Well, that makes sense. Now we don't, I think it's 100% true that we don't know what people like about our stuff.
No.
Exactly. We know what we like about it.
Yeah.
But how people perceive us, we can never know. And
Yeah, that's one thing and that's what sucks sometimes when you do get success and you start headlining, and now you're not hanging out with your friends as much as you did, because coming up we were traveling together. You know, Blaine would feature, I'd be emceeing, and we'd hang out and watch each other's stuff, and and that was really, we could help. So like when you hear these early stories about like the Hollywood brats, like Spielberg, Scorsese, Lucas, De Palma, they hung out, they all knew each other, and they would help each other on each other's movies. Like De Palma told Lucas, you should start this with a scroll, like start Star Wars, like explain this universe. It's a whole world you're giving people, and I think it was Scorsese who was like, you got to blow the Death Star up, blow it up, not blow the thing up. And like Spielberg showed up on the set of Scarface and was like, you want me to shoot second unit? On that final shootout scene, second unit was Spielberg shooting that.
Oh, fantastic. So,
he was like, I'm here, let me just shoot something.
You need a scene. You need a scene
to come out of, and people going, cut this, man, don't do that.
And people to rely on, and it's always been true. It's been true forever.
By the way, that's Spielberg always says the reason that Jaws is such a great movie is because I was so friggin' stupid.
Yeah.
I had the worst judgment. I didn't know any better, and because of that, I did this. Everyone thought, oh my God, he's doing these brilliant new. No, I didn't know not to do that.
Right.
So that's why it looks the way it does.
Right. No, it's great.
It looks so original. Yeah, because there's an idiot making it.
Jaws is still very structurally one of the weirdest movies of all time.
It's so fucking bizarre, and there's stuff that shouldn't work, but the movie, you're pulled in by the characters. You don't give a shit anymore.
It's a movie, I believe I counted out in 20 acts. Like there are 20 different.
Well, the first 2 acts are just Isbin's an enemy of the people. So literally the same plot.
Right.
Is there's a problem in this town, but the town, we're making money off this thing. You can't shut the fuck up, dude.
Right.
Until people start dying. And then the whole transition to Act 3 makes no sense. Are you sure there's still? We saw a severed head. There's a friggin' And by the way, Ben Gardner, who everyone knows, is now gone.
Right.
And you're not wondering. That's not a big sign. Yeah. Anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
Total change of subject, which is 2 different things I want to cover before we go on to the questions.
Yes. Please.
How does it feel being married to somebody who's saving the world? Who's going to be a guest on this show coming up? Your wife, your lovely wife.
Oh my gosh,
be a guest coming up. You should talk to her sometime, by the way.
I should. She does not return my texts. She's so extraordinary in that, she's an example of being aware of the hype and illusion that's being built around her, because she was a friggin' movie star. She was a movie star from when she was 15, starred in a Disney movie, was making movies, boom, 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 offers everywhere, and then realized, wait a minute, I still want to act, but this only goes so far, and then stopped acting for a while to go to Harvard and got her degree in psychology, and then later on learned something in legal, but it's like you help people work things out arguing wise, and I'm forgetting it's something like arbitration.
Okay.
But yeah. So she's always been this person that's like live very, very curiously, and live very, very. Don't ever assume that you can't affect things and change things. I'm of a mind that a lot of times I'm just like, she's like, no, if we focus on this, we can change this little thing, and that will make this change.
That's why I'm having her on, because I want her to convince me that's true, because my heart is so broken.
Yeah. Me too. Yeah. I mean, and we went out door knocking, we did, all that stuff, but she's like, you're looking at this giant thing that went wrong, but 20 little things went right, and that down the line, I mean, look, from a point of view of, let's say, a MAGA person, Obama winning was this massive disaster, but for them, 20 little things went right, and that led to them down the road getting, and you've got to focus on those things and keep showing
pendulum
up.
Swings always, and I understand that. It's not the end of the world.
Yeah.
I'm impressed with somebody who has the fortitude to pick themselves up and say, okay, back into the frame.
But she'll be the first to tell you, part of picking yourself up is lying down and crying it out for a little bit. Sometimes you've got to, when animals get hurt in the wild, they crawl off in the bush and they just scream it out. That's part of the healing process. I mean, so much of us have been taught, like, you grit your fucking teeth and you play through the pain. It's like, no, you got to go lie down for a little bit and heal. And so there's days when she's like, I don't fucking know. But she's not going, I'm lying down forever. She's like, I am lying down and this is toward me getting back up and getting into it, you know? And that's one really hopeful thing I see from especially like Gen Alpha and everyone, like Simone Biles and people like that. They're like, no, I'm taking a couple years off because mentally I'm not good right now. Everyone's like, you grit your teeth, you play through the pain. It's like, no. That's your generation. Right. All that did was lead to alcoholism and stress. Right. And I'm going to take, and then of course, after these came back and was even more amazing. Better, yeah. And now, like, if you look at like Tiger Woods, that's all you do, you grind. He can barely walk now. Right. And if he had taken a few years off, she goes, I want a whole long life. I don't want one flash of brilliance and it destroys me for the rest of my life.
Right. Tiger Woods now is like only having 2 or 3 affairs. Earlier, he could really do it. Really do it.
No, but I'm like, there's nothing wrong with self-care. Yes. You don't play through the pain. And right now, the Democrats or any progressive, we're not going to play through the pain. We're going to lie down for a little bit and figure out what the hell happened.
I've been lying down and licking my wounds since 1974. So at some point, you'll let me know when it's okay to get up and start doing stuff.
Yeah. No, you got to.
I don't have that.
Yeah.
Actually, a separate thing that I was not going to ask, but I've noticed that you, the stand-up comedian and writer guy, somehow became a really good actor. And I don't know how that fucking happened. It kind of, in terms of zero-sum game, it kind of pisses me off.
Well,
like, I think you're really, really good. You're really committed. You're really smart about it. And I see nothing in your past or how you trained to think, oh, he should be able to do this.
That came from, I never really got any formal actor training. I got some audition training, like how to audition, like a couple, and then I began to, it kind of fell into my lap. And I had that late 20-year-old attitude, again, trying to be cool, like, this just fell in my lap. I don't work at this. And if you watch, especially the first couple seasons of King of Queens, I'm not that good. I'm okay. And I realized very quickly, I should ask for help. And I talked to friends, like, what do you, like friends who were professional actors, like, and they're like, work with an acting coach, work with someone on your scenes. And I started working with a friend of mine. She would come and we would read the scenes back and forth. So I would come in. Right. And also, because I was working with Kevin James and Leah Remini and Jerry Stiller. And those three were they weren't natural actors. They worked hard at it. Kevin James worked for years in community theater in Florida. He got good at what he did. Leah Remini had been working since she was a kid and worked hard at it. And Jerry Stiller had been working since, and Jerry Stiller was at a level, though, he was at a Yoda level where he just knew exactly how to deliver a line, almost to the show's detriment. He could get laughed with lines that weren't supposed to be laugh lines, and it would throw the rhythm off the scene, which was really bizarre. But I realized, these people are so good because they weren't cool about it and like, I just show up and whatever. And so I started working really, really hard. And then when I first started getting like substantial movie roles, not just like background stuff, I was like, I would pay a little money and work with a coach. And when I worked with, when I did young adult, I worked with a physical coach to work on my limp to get that right. And then also to save my leg afterwards and fuck it up. And I worked with did a whole biography of my character, what happened to this person, so you can live it without thinking about it. But that's the work.
Great performance.
Yeah, but that, and it's a great performance because I also learned a lot from Charlize Theron. She is not this, inspiration just comes. She fucking works. She knows her shit, and when she comes in, it's not that method bullshit of like, all right, listen, when we do this, I'm gonna have to be a bitch, I'm gonna be really mean to you. She would go into that character and then yell cut, and she'd come out anyway, so this week and then back, and then bam, back into it. That's a fucking pro. That is a pro. And it was like, dude, there were a couple of things I fucked up along the way in my acting career, a couple of things that I didn't put the work into because I was trying to be cool. And I've learned since then, when I do stuff, I fucking work at it and get it down. And when I see, when Meredith does roles, you see her, she sits and gets the character down. So when she comes in, that character is going into the room. And she also has that great thing of like, they're looking for me, they don't know it, and I'm trying to bring them the best thing I can. And if I'm meant for this role, I'll get it.
Yeah.
And if I'm not, if I don't get the role, I've dodged a bullet and so have they.
Right.
Which is a great way to think about it.
It is a great attitude.
Yeah.
So now, being cool, working hard is not the attitude that allowed you to be frozen in the scene, in the background of the scene of, was it Everybody Loves Raymond?
That was...
Or was it in
King of Queens?
King of Queens. You had no lines.
Well, the other thing about King of Queens is all the writers in that show were such weirdos and brilliant, and just, they had the oddest sense of humor. There's all the weird, there's like weird little catchphrases that will happen in that you, like Yuspa and Hey Eddie are said a lot, and you don't really know what you're looking at. And there's a guy named Mookie Blaylock that would keep showing up as different character. There's just, again, not to trumpet it, but they realize, oh, you're in the scene, you don't have any lines. They're like, stand stock still and let's see if we catch it in the edit. So there's a scene where I'm just totally not moving, even to the point where they cut over to Leah and this other actress, and it's over her shoulder, and I'm still in the same position.
That was sanctioned by Michael Whitehorn? He said, go do that?
And the writers. They were like, don't move and let's see what happens. And they thought it was hilarious. Yeah? They loved it.
Okay, well,
they loved it. Yeah.
Genius. It's fantastic.
But like, again, all these, I remember people that used to work with, work on Taxi.
Yes.
And they would work with, and like, everyone's like, oh my God, Danny DeVito is such a natural. Danny DeVito would work out all his like physicals, how is he going to do it, where he'll land this, where he'll be positioned, and then it looked so natural.
Right.
And he's I think Roger Ebert described him as, he's a 5 foot tall actor that when he's in a scene, no one seems to know what to do with their legs because all the focus is now on him.
Right.
And but yes, he had confidence, and he put the work in.
Yeah.
To make sure it was amazing. I mean, I do put the work. I mean, I know it sounds like I don't work, but I put the work in as a comedian. I go on stage almost every night and work on these bits and make sure they're good.
Where do you like to test your stuff out?
I mean, I do once a month. I'm at the Largo on a Sunday. But then on weeknights, I love going to the store, the Factory, Improv. I love those because those rooms, the Largo helps you write and those rooms help you edit.
Right.
You know, I remember during the heyday of the Largo, there were a lot of comedians that were, you could go up in that room when like in the late 90s and do 20 minutes and the whole thing killed.
Right.
And then you go out on the road and 5 minutes of that would work.
Right.
You're like, the crowds that are at the Largo are not the crowds you're performing for out on the road.
Right.
You know, and a lot of people just didn't realize that and they wouldn't make that adjustment.
Right.
I remember Mitch Hedberg saying, beware of someone who writes for half an hour and says they have half an hour of new material. I'm like,
yes,
that I know what he's referring to right now.
Absolutely.
So yeah, there was that whole, you got to work at, it, but don't confuse working with struggling. Struggling is just, you're doing it for show. Look how hard I'm struggling. I'm doing this to show you how committed I am. No, do your work and then go relax, go take care of yourself.
Work is struggle. I mean,
work is struggle, but do it joyously rather than I got to show the world how tormented I am. No one cares how tormented you are.
It's not even, I don't do it for show. I'm tormented all on my own.
Oh, well, that's fine. Yeah, then be tormented.
Because there's voices in my head saying bad things, and I got to get rid of them in order to get through them. So it's difficult.
Any voice in your head that's telling you something bad or telling you something, that was someone in your past that was afraid of you becoming successful and jealous of your creativity. And they put that in there so that hopefully the rest of the world can be at their same bland level.
It's mostly Doug Benson's voice.
And but that's a very persuasive voice. Right. But if you let that voice take over, then that person won.
That's right.
So if you want to do it out of pure vengeance, do it out of vengeance then.
I don't let the voices win. I try not to anyway. Yeah. So now it's time for the part of the show we call Question Time.
Ooh!
It's question time.
Here's the first question is there a chance of an AP Bio reunion / movie?
Something like that, because that's Mike O'Brien's show, and Andrew Singer was the producer, and also, of course, Glenn Howerton. If it happens, it happens. I'll be the last to know. I had so much fun on that show. The commerce side of me would love a reunion or a movie or another season. The comedic artist side of me, it is 4 perfect seasons.
Yeah.
And the fact that we got to do 4 seasons when that show got no ratings, it got great reviews, like the Rotten Tomatoes thing is through the roof, and nobody watched it. And so the fact that people believed in that show for so long was such a minor miracle that part of me wants it to exist as its own thing. However, to get to work with that cast again, to get to work with Paula Pell, and the actresses and Glenn and everyone, like, it was such a joy going into that show. So I'm torn.
So we'll see. We'll see what happens.
We'll see.
Here's a question for you. Did he see The Journey of Natty Gann in the theater?
I did not see it in the theater when it was coming up. I had never seen a lot of Meredith's films before I met her, because Journey of Natty Gann, when it came out, I went and saw Commando and Rambo. And then Dream a Little Dream was late 80s. That's when I was on stage every night and wasn't seeing a lot of movies. I did see Lake Placid, which she was in. I knew who she was, but no, I had not seen that. And there was a screening of Natty Gann at Vidiot did a screening, this beautiful print. I don't know where they found this print. And I forgot what a gorgeous movie it is. Like, just cinematography wise, it's a genuinely amazing movie. And it's this Disney movie that exists during this period that a critic named Scout DeFoya likes to call Danger Mouse, which is the period after Walt died, but before they did Little Mermaid, where they were kind of in the wilderness and didn't know what to do. And because they weren't really, they had kind of lost their way, they ended up doing amazing movies, like Dragon Slayer and Watcher in the Woods and Natty Gann, because there wasn't anyone going, this is the formula. They kind of lost the formula for a while, and then great stuff got through.
That may be heralding this era. Maybe great stuff is coming out of show business soon because we have to find something, a different way to do things.
Because it's all collapsing.
Exactly.
Yeah. But like Journey of Natty Gann is like if Disney made a Cormac McCarthy novel. Yeah. That's the feel of it. Yeah. And it's kind of extraordinary when you watch it, like, this was for kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Timothy asks, how does he feel about being the Stan Lee of showing up in different comedy shows and movies?
I like it as long as it doesn't go into the elder abuse area that he seemed to live in. I mean, I like doing that, but I think after a while I'm going to need to stop doing that because I don't want to become like more of a commodity of Patton Oswalt. I like being able to just sink into character roles. I want Harry Dean Stanton's career. I want Tracy Walter's career. Those are the roles I love.
Yeah.
Every little side character in the movie Midnight Run, which is maybe the best cast movie of all time. Even people who have like one line are like so perfect. Those are the roles I want.
Yeah, Midnight Run is a great movie.
It's Meredith's favorite movie.
Oh, fantastic!
She can literally recite. It's so good.
For some reason, I connect Midnight Run and Get Shorty together.
Yeah,
because the ethos.
You know what? Well, because and also like Princess Bride. It is a perfectly cast movie. Every single role in those movies, down to people with one line, is amazing.
Yeah.
Remember when
like
De Niro's
Preston Sturges?
Yes. Yeah. When like a Franklin Pangborn who has one scene, but he absolutely nails it. Yeah.
Right.
The scene in Midnight Run when De Niro's on the plane with a little kid and he's showing him the fake. He makes the fake FBI thing. He goes, "How's it look?" The kid goes, "Looks good to me." like in wicked way of going. Right. Keep in mind, I'm a little kid.
Right, exactly.
Don't maybe take my.
This as
I was just
word.
like, I can't. This little kid's like, to me.
That's awesome.
Maybe calm down.
Well, De Niro has such a great history of working with kids. So it just probably brings it out the magic.
Bobby.
Yeah, he loves them.
Yeah.
Tell us everything about being Delmer Darien in Magnolia.
Oh, God. Well, that movie, you know how I got cast in that movie? Came off stage at the Largo when it was on Fairfax, walked back into the kitchen to go upstairs to the green room. Right. And Paul Thomas Anderson was hanging out in the kitchen. I kind of knew him. He's like, "Oh, hey, man." I'm like, "Hey." He goes, "Hey, I'm shooting a movie. You want to be in it?" I'm like, "Yeah." Like it came to him in the moment. I'm like, "All right, I'll give me your number." And then Next thing I knew, I get a call. I had to go in, get fitted for a green wetsuit. Never sent me the
Right.
script. He doesn't send anyone the full script. I got 1 page of me in the casino.
Right.
Then we flew to Reno together, shot the casino scene, and then played Baccarat till dawn.
Yeah.
Taught me how to play Baccarat. And then a few weeks later, then I forgot about it. And then he goes, "Hey, we need you for this one close-up shot." So I'm up on this. This is the middle of the summer in the valley. I'm in my custom-cut wetsuit, green wetsuit. I'm on top of this ladder, and they have all these tree branches around me, and they're just in close on my face. And this wasn't in the script. I'm like, the fuck is this?
Right.
And I'm sweating so much.
Right.
They're like pouring water over my head to keep me from dehydrating. Right. And I was like, what is this? He goes, he goes, I can't tell you what this is. When you see the movie, it'll make sense. You're the first frog that falls out of the sky. He goes, that's all I'll say. I was like, what? He goes, it'll make sense.
Right.
And then later I'm like, oh, I'm the omen for the rain of frogs. So that was that thing.
Fantastic.
And again, a genuinely amazing movie that you can keep revisiting.
I've seen it many, many times.
Over and over again. All the little, not just yes, there's very hidden, clever things. And then there's also just flat out, really amazing, awkward human moments that land so hard. Philip Seymour Hoffman at the deathbed talking on the phone. The date between John C. Reilly and Melora Waters, these little actual, that's humanity and that's what it actually probably looks like. Yeah. Closest stuff to Altman that we're going to get in post Altman.
I guess. Yes. I mean, the Paul Thomas Anderson movies, for the most part, are very fascinating. You just cannot stop watching them because they're rich and beautiful.
I've watched Hard 8 10 times easily. And you know The Secret to Hard 8, right? Weirdly enough, it's a sequel to Midnight Run. Philip Baker Hall, his character is Sidney.
Okay.
That's Sidney, Dennis Farina's right-hand man. Sidney, drink a glass of milk, eat a sandwich, do some fucking thing. That's him. That's his character now,
that was his
later in his life. Yeah.
I did not know that, so I'll watch it now.
And the original title for the movie was Sidney.
Oh, fantastic.
And they were like, we can't sell a movie called Sidney, call it Hard 8.
They couldn't sell that either.
No, they couldn't. Well, I mean, I know is I watch it over, and I watch it. I think I watch it twice a year. I just go back this is how you make a movie.
This is a question about Jerry Stiller and Ann Mira.
Oh.
Which is, what was it like working with them? Of course, it must have been great. It's already said.
Well, it was a dream on a lot of levels. One, again, watching Jerry Stiller, and again, I will always be happy that I worked with Jerry and Leah and Kevin, because I'm like, oh, I need to work harder at this if I want to be an actor. This isn't something you just show up and just do. You need to work hard at this. They work hard, and that's why they're brilliant, But Jerry Stiller, also just getting to sit and talk with him and Ann about their years coming up, and because I was used to work at the Hungry Eye in San Francisco, in the late 50s, early 60s. So you ever run into Lenny Bruce? We ran into Lenny all the time, and that's something false about him, that people thought, oh, he was at the Purple Onion and the Hungry Eye. He worked strip clubs because that's where the money was.
Right.
He goes, I'm at the Condor. I'm not going to be at this dumb hippie joint, this beatnik joint where they pass a hat around. Fuck that. I want money. So he would go to the Condor and still kill, but he was very much I would like to make money doing this.
For sure.
And at the end of his life, he was freaking out. Yes, he was being censored, but he was also they're not allowing me to work. Right. I'm broke. I'm raising a kid. What do I do? Right. So, and they told this great story. You'll appreciate this. They went. This is they saw him at the beginning when he was kind of exploding. They saw him near the end, and he was at the Condor, and he was just reading his transcripts on stage, and people are just. And they've been hanging out beforehand, and the owner was like, now listen, because now at all his shows, there's a scrum of cops at the back of the room. Right. And the owner's like, just don't curse, Lenny, all right? You read your fucking transcripts, but don't curse, because I can't have this thing shut down. And the place is half full, and he's reading his transcripts, and people are getting up and walking out, and this guy table gets up, this guy goes, frig you, Lenny. And then Lenny goes, this dumb cocksucker doesn't know how to say fuck. And then the lights go down, and then it was just it was so,
It's, that weird thing of holding your ground in such a self-destructive way.
Yeah,
is just,
yeah.
It's like being possessed by a demon.
But there's also something really real about that of like, I know you want me to crawl and I can't do it, you know, but it depends on who you're apologizing or crawling for. You know, I'm not this, I don't believe in that. No apologies ever. I'm as a comedian, I'd like to be able to grow and evolve. And if there's, I used to say faggot, I used to say retard, and then people pointed out, hey, that is hurtful. And I'm like, well, this isn't about me. I'm not like, no, I'm digging in twice as hard. Like, no, I said tranny on stage, you know, and it's like, at the time it wasn't good, but times change and you can't, but in my day was, well, then you're electing to be the old man now. Like, I'd rather evolve and go, oh, and again, there's nothing weak about going, I didn't know, now I know better. And then the other side going, yeah, now you know better.
I do wish that words weren't quite as hurtful as they seem to be now, that people are more sensitive now to words that seem to be hurting more.
Well, because I think the words now are attached to so much more violence, not even physical violence, but like institutional violence of like abrogating people's rights or like, you know, making their lives difficult. That's really, and especially it's linked to violence where it's one thing to be an adult and you're transgender and you've gone through all this shit and you're like, I've got a little bit of a callus on me. I can see who it, but when you're thinking of when you were young and you were so frightened and you're seeing that done to younger people, you don't want their generation to go through the shit you want to go through.
Of course not.
You know?
Yeah.
So yeah, you do fight against that a little harder. It's the hard people that are like, well, I went through that shit. They should go through that shit. It's like, no, most people are like, yes, I went through that shit. I'd like it if the next generation doesn't have to go through that shit.
That would be the kind way.
Yeah, that would be the kind way. That's the same people that are like, forgive student debt. I didn't get money. Yeah, remember how it sucked? Why do you want other people to go through that?
Sure. No, it's and also because the cost of education is different.
What I wish is that people were better at looking at the context sometimes, or the person that are using the words. I did a whole bit about this, but like sometimes it's the evil people that learn the correct terminology very quickly so they can smuggle in their evilness by getting, and there's people out there going, if a couple of fags want to adopt a kid, the fuck is that your business? Fuck you. And, you know, they're like, he said fag. Do you see what he's saying? He's actually on, like, so.
Context doesn't matter, though.
Look, but like, look at who is saying it. Look at where their heart is sometimes. And also, if someone 2 weeks ago is saying, you know, tranny and this shit, like, yeah, hey, fuck you. That's not cool. You know better. But if you're digging up someone saying something in like the 80s, it's like, they didn't know any better. Back then, talking about someone being transgender was progressive, even if you weren't using the right language.
Yeah. Well, I was a minstrel for many years, and honestly, people are not letting go of it.
The 90s were a different time.
It was a different time.
The 90s
it was cool
were a different time.
It was cool.
But again, there's just like, and look, I've been wrong in pointing out some shit because I get wound up, and I think I've been right in going, you know, that it's different. This person saying tranny is different than that person 100%. Saying tranny.
But that's, you know, that's the hard lesson I had to learn, is that doesn't matter to most people.
No.
The context and who's saying it and why they're saying it doesn't matter, which is why All in the Family wouldn't play now, because nobody's looking at the context. They're just looking at the specific words. And
although, you know what's really sad beyond all that? You know why? Well, cancer is sad.
Yeah.
The reason All in the Family wouldn't play today, it's about a middle-aged couple.
That's true.
And it's also, it's not about anything. It's just them living their lives and dealing with stuff, and you can't pitch that anymore.
Yeah, it's true.
You know, he's a little bit bigoted, and she means well. Their son's kind of, but sometimes the son's wrong too. Right. Like, well, what's the show? It's just the messiness of life.
Yeah, but
that's what you couldn't get through.
You couldn't get it sold, but it could get on the air and be watched.
Once it got on, then it began, and it's still brilliant. But you know, I'm hoping we're going to get to a point where, you know, again, right now shit's really, really divided because it's profitable for people to divide people. But barring some horrible I hope it doesn't come from a catastrophe, but I hope we get to a point where people are like, we're not making money dividing people. We gotta somehow bring them together, and we're going to live with shit. And like, I'm gonna need to let that slide, and this side has to let that slide, and this side has to let that slide.
Yeah, it'll come. I think that'll
I hope so.
Pendulum will swing towards let's stop fighting. Three more questions, and we're done. I don't want to ask this Goldberg how you got the Goldbergs. I don't care. I don't care.
They offered it to me.
They offered it to you. You said yes. Obviously, I could have told that story.
Yeah.
How, I don't know. How was it working on the set of Mighty Meds? What is that?
Oh, Mighty Meds was a Nickelodeon show about a superhero clinic, like a clinic that cures superheroes.
Okay.
And it was for kids, and I was a supervillain that was coming in to have some kind of treatment. It was fun. I just remember being really, really fun.
Okay.
And the people that worked there had it was again, people that were very much fans of comic books and superheroes, but also not reverent about it and kind of taking the piss out of it a little bit. Yeah, it was good. Great show.
Can you ask him about night fishing and the experience of working on his one-page story for the upcoming Ice Cream Man issue?
Oh, okay. Well, I don't want to spoil there's a great comic series called Ice Cream Man, and it's a horror series where every issue is a self-contained horror story. And they also do like really interesting ways of just telling stories. There's one issue that's a palindrome where you can literally read it. The first panel is the same as the last panel, and then they meet in the middle, but it actually tells a different story depending on which way you go. And then there's one story that it erases itself as it goes along, so you're almost experiencing what Alzheimer's is as your world begins to go away. So they invited all these writers to do what's the scariest thing you can do in just one page, and it can be anything you want. So I don't want to say what I did because there's a cool. I hope there's a very cool twist and an interesting point of view. But I'll just leave it at that. It's me and a bunch of other and people that I love, like Grant Morrison, and that are doing one page, not one panel, one page stories.
Was it hard to keep it down to one page?
Yeah, like it's the how do I have something that lands, because I'm a big, especially like that whole I'm a big fan of that British ghost stories at Christmas time thing, the M.R. James and the Algernon Blackwood, where they're very subtle and they take their time to build, and then there's a thing at the end that but you can't do this. You got to get in, you got to hit them, you got to get out. And so that was an interesting challenge. Oh man, I want to answer your question more, but I don't want to spoil it.
That's fine.
It comes out on the 29th.
Ask him how great he thinks The Simpsons is. Come on.
The Simpsons
the greatest
is
show on
fucking fantastic.
I'll answer it for him.
Here's how good it is that it's one of those shows where they predicted a lot of stuff because it was written by people, Swartzwelder and Conan O'Brien, and that could see. They were able to see in a comedic way. There's this phrase, I think Isaac Asimov said it. There's only 3 science fiction plots: what if only, and if this goes on. And The Simpsons is so great at the comedic version of if this goes on. Where does this go? And then they do a lot of it for comedic effect, and they've kind of ended up calling a lot of what came our way in the 21st century. In a very brilliant and frightening way.
This is true.
While still being hilarious. While still having some of the funniest lines ever done.
But it's more a game of numbers. If you do 80 billion jokes, some of them are going to turn out to be true.
Yes. However, it's also, especially the early seasons, and much like The Onion, it's one thing to have a show that has 25 episodes and each season there are 5 just, you can't believe how good they are. But to have seasons where like every fucking episode is like something that could be cited by a comedy writer or you want to learn how to write a comedic episode, watch The Onion never had a dip.
A bad issue. Yeah.
When does The Onion going to have a dip? It's almost like with Gene Hackman. Could you turn in a couple of shitty performances so we know you're a human?
No.
Like this is even when he's in a terrible movie like Loose Cannons, he's fascinating to watch. Like just turn in something shitty, because this is becoming kind of unpleasant to watch.
He's good at it. It's okay to be good at it.
Yeah.
No, The Simpsons was they're good at it.
Yeah.
Patton, thank you for being here.
You're very
This is
welcome.
fantastic. I've sucked up so much of your time, and it was very selfish of me, but I
It was
appreciate
worth it. I really appreciate it.
And I'm, again, huge fan, and appreciate you being here, and appreciate you, the audience, being here. Thank you for being here. Please write to me at DBAWJK@gmail.com. Subscribe to this thing, whatever it is. People say subscribing is important. I don't know why, but subscribe.
Subscribe.
And also, don't be alone. Spend some time talking face to face with somebody who you want to talk with, and that'll be great too. We will see you next time.
Don't be alone.